you got me thinking earlier on, Simpa, about we were talking about companies investing, people's perspectives on the cannabis industry. I've pulled up some of the stock market charts. If you fancy taking a look at some of to give people a bit of an overview, when Simpa and I met, we were it was probably about 6 years ago plus, maybe.
A bit more now.
Back then, there weren't any cannabis companies, and so everyone was very excited. There was lots of speculation. There was lots of investment money being raised, thrown in all sorts of different directions. And looking at the stock prices now, I can throw one up quickly, Simpa, to give everyone a bit of context. But it's almost, it's beyond comedic. It's in fact sad at this point now, bordering on criminal. Would you grant me access, kind Simpa, to be able to throw up a little image? Hey, there we go.
Sweet.
Right. Prepare yourselves, dear viewers, for the most depressing looking stock charts that you've ever seen in your life. So here we have...
Who are we starting with?
Aurora Cannabis. Possibly the biggest cannabis company in the world in terms of share price. Well, initially share price, market value, assets under management, all those sorts of things. Interestingly, no revenue. So as a bit of a timeline, if we go back to 2017, 2016, this is when all of our lovely governments and politicians were changing their... Is that my cat?
I thought I heard a meow there. Not my cat.
Never mind. Nip that bit out there, Simpa. So if we cast our minds back to 2016, 2017, roughly when Simpa and I met, this was when all of the excitement, speculation, optimism was sort of filling the cannabis ecosystem, and the few people that were around then. There wasn't really an industry to talk of as such, but everyone had been looking at California, everyone had been looking at America very optimistically and very excitedly, slightly greedily perhaps as well. And so to zoom in a little bit, can you see this all right, Simpa?
Yeah, it's full screened across mine. Looks pretty good.
Magic. So share prices started at $4, $3, which is a fairly good time to buy a share, buy a stock. This isn't investment advice, of course, by the way, merely observations. And as the laws were changing and as the discussions were growing, this is when everyone thought that there would be federal legalization. Everyone thought there would be all 50 states legalized, 51, 52 states legalized. And then
this will be after Prop 64. California is, I think, is the main dip you're looking at there in November, because it'll be the election of, because the American elections are always November, aren't they?
I believe so. So as you can see, quite optimistic growth from $4 up to 20. Pretty happy with the returns there. So I think we're now looking at around 2018, which was just after Trump got elected, if I'm right in thinking that, Simpa. And we got up to a share price of $130 for an Aurora stock. So if you got it at $4 and you got up to 130, 120, I think we even spiked up to 150 nearly. Great returns. And again, everyone thought that legalization was just around the corner for the United States, and so therefore the world would open up and cannabis would become more widely acceptable as a commodity. since 2018, that obviously hasn't happened, and we've gone from a peak of $140, $150 per share down to now a grand total of 45 cents per share from $140, which is, well, if you're an investor, you'd be pretty unpleased with that. And also, if you're running the company, probably in a little bit of trouble financially.
Wow.
Lots of money is being raised by Aurora. There's been lots of different sort of stock splitting, share splitting,
buybacks, etc. I mean, Aurora,
buy-offs, everything that can be done.
which is in.
Ultimately, yeah, we've ended up back down at 50 cents below where it even started. So in the last, let's say, 8 years, we've had a bit of a boom and bust in the cannabis industry right across the board. And this is really the same for most cannabis companies. We were just talking there about Tilray. Similarly, up to nearly, well, there was a spike, I believe, and it went up to $300 a share. Let me just move that out.
Well, yeah, Tilray is an interesting one. I mean, initially Aurora got caught up. I think if you actually look into your other figures as well from before, you'll probably see somewhere in the middle between the two first main spikes, I think, is the rumor of Aurora Tilray merger. Yeah, so the first spike, you've obviously got Canadian legalization coming into effect, sort of 2018. So that caused a massive spike across the board, especially in the Canadian companies, and especially the Canadian companies that were dual listed on both New York Stock Exchange and sort of the, what the hell's the Canadian one? Is it Toronto?
I think so.
Yeah, Toronto Stock Exchange.
October 18, yeah.
Yeah, and then 2018. That obviously kind of fell through with Aurora. What did it was Feria and Tilray, I think, who ended up merging, and they became the new Tilray. But Tilray, so yeah, in its initial inception, obviously got a massive bump. That's, you got your merger news early on. Then you've got 2021 is where you've got your big jump up. Is it got caught up in the GameStop thing? Do you remember when
oh yeah,
Wall Street bets and
were
yeah, and they moved over, and for a few days they pumped Tilray right the fuck back up. Because the same with all
dollar up to 70 again,
and
now back down to 190.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're talking about health of an industry, that's not really what you want.
It was never about health of an industry. It was the same as like most things that become like unicorns, I suppose. The new thing, which is a $1 billion company, the new thing is like a decacorn, which is a $10 billion valuation. That's where they're looking for, because any fucker in Silicon Valley can apparently now throw together a $1 billion company overnight, it would seem. And it's about that. It's basically, it's pump and dump. It's the initial Series A, Series B, Series C, and how far ever you want to go round and down with this. Investors, I mean, in the cannabis, we're Series 4, Series 5, however you want to categorize it down. We're moving, then still putting money back into the pile. And it's all based on speculation. You know, every time the Safe Banking Act, or when it became the Safer Banking Act, or any of these other legislations and acts of governance in the States sort of come up, the market moves a little bit, but the institutional investors, they're not interested in owning it, moving yet. They've bought back low, basically knowing which companies are going to rise and fall, because it's all, I don't know, allegedly insider trading, because ultimately they know what's going to happen. They knew as soon as all the IPOs, the initial portfolio offerings, come onto the market, the same months and weeks and year as Canadian legalization, a marketplace of like 80 odd million people, that on paper is going to look good for a few fucking years. So you pump, you dump, you come back in, and then you just you buy back at the lower rate. Wait till it comes up, because you then go, oh, the quarterly profits will be out next week. We know that'll do this. I'll take my $5, whatever it was, it'll jump back to 20, and then just buy it down. And everyone else is looking at this that doesn't know cannabis, or that isn't in the inside of this controlled opposition, as it were, because frankly, that's what I fucking believe legalization to be, frankly, is a form of classist institutional protection of the economic hegemony continuation of the status quo, and that this is evident of that. A real healthy industry, as you say, would be a gradual, and actually I would say a fucking, I can't remember the mathematical term for a longitudinal curve.
No.
It's an exponential growth, but there's a certain word for it. It's so long since I did fucking math. It is a formal education. But anyway, my point being is, you say it should be this thing, and it should look more like, as I've just written about recently in the Weed World magazine, an industrial revolution. It should look like an explosion of human productivity, ingenuity, and innovation. That's what cannabis can really be. I love it evidently as a drug, and it helps me therapeutically, lawfully, and as a prescription medicine. But it can do so much fucking more than this. It can do so much more than even the thousand things that I could sit here and list right now. We could really move forward, but this is evident that this isn't their intention. It's about market manipulation. It's about ensuring that, cannabis is legal. We don't need to do anything. And say, yeah, but you're still producing all these fossil fuels. You're still producing all these plastics. You're still mining all of these fucking minerals. You're still doing things we don't need to do because cannabis can replace that shit. Sorry, I've hijacked your presentation there, Chris. Where are we?
Let it rip, Simpa. Reason I put these up was because I just wanted people to understand how the industry, or the biggest companies in the industry, have ended up operating and what's gone wrong, what they could have done better maybe. A lot of them ended up very much just production focused, create as much cannabis as possible, pump out as many products as possible, and there wasn't much of a follow-up plan after that, and they ended up with very substantial market shares, but the actual utility of what they were producing was non-existent, essentially.
They were dominant. There were big fish in a little pond, and all they did was get so big, but they couldn't grow the pond because it's not the same as anything else. It's not again, I've just watched It's a Wonderful Life because it's Christmas and it's tradition. Like the plastics boom in that, and George is offered, and you watch like this the industrial explosion because of the application of new plant polymers and derived plastic compounds. And that's that trajectory of whatever. But there wasn't a history and a culture of suppressed people that made plastic. Do you know what I mean? There isn't a people that are going to say fuck you, and a whole bunch of other people that are going to have in solidarity say fuck you for the people that you've been fucking. That did make sense, but was quite vulgar. But you get my point though, is that because there is this suppressed class, frankly, the system you guys are going to have to create in order to appease me is going to have to be fucking spot on. You can't come in and Tesco value your way through this shit. No offense, Tesco. But you have to do this properly. You have to include our culture. You have to, represent us. It has to be for us, with us, or fuck you, we're not going to buy your shit. We're going to let you circle the drain.
And then most of the people ended up turning back to the black market anyway, or becoming self-reliant as it was. So, I mean, as you can see, I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at any of the stock prices, things like that, but most industries don't follow that trend. We wouldn't have cars, we wouldn't have phones, we wouldn't have computers or technology if other companies and industries operated the way that the cannabis industry has.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, $550 a share down to $4 a share. There was talk at one point of Aurora being delisted because their share price was too low to even, it's meant to be above $1 for it to be listed on the stock exchange in the US anyway. And yeah, I mean, gosh, look at that. It's just been eviscerated.
It's insane.
Don't get me wrong, there's been some share splits and stock buybacks and liquidation of different share categories, but ultimately most of these companies haven't made money since they began, and all the money's being made in using investor funds to try and prop up the companies and pay back the old investors who invested in the company initially.
Well, it's
unfortunate all around, and this is why I guess Simpa and I have been, we had a little complaint there at the start of the podcast.
Wait. Moi? Complain?
Forgive me.
No, I agree. And actually, I'm going to steal the screen a second to show you exactly proof of what you were just saying. Is that showing the right screen?
Oh, there we are. Yeah. Microsoft's a good example, Simpa.
Yeah, I'm just going to close these other things. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. Was GameStop was the short squeeze. They got caught up in. And that was actually just me clarifying the Canadian date of legalization. But yeah, as you're saying here, this is, Microsoft. It doesn't drop. There isn't a point where it drops below its sort of initial value rate. It grows and it dips. It grows and it dips. You know what I mean? The same is true with Apple on its trajectory. Do you know what I mean? Christ, look at that.
I've lost you now.
Oh.
Oh, there we are.
When
you're back.
Yeah, Samsung, another one again. Like the industries will dip and move, and most of these things that you're seeing actually a dip. These are general stock market drops. Do you know what I mean? These are not.
There's value to the company because it produces something of value to people. Whereas
exactly, it's not a shell to just hide some shit or go. Oh, it's literally like the shell game, but you saw them put X under there, and then they're telling you that there's 75 times whatever that is, and you're going, oh, yes, and they give you more, and you bet more, and it's just this fucking
speculation.
But it's a con game when one side is fixed and it's rigged, and that's the problem.